and welcome to another 12 Days of Christmas in July. I hope you're enjoying the series so far. This time we are looking at gift tags, and I have two rules for gift tags. One, they should be easy to make because 9 times out of 10, they're going in the trash, right? People don't realize that you've spent all this time hand making them, and if they look super detailed, they'll go, oh, that's pretty, and then they toss them, right? So they have to be easy, so that way if they get tossed, it's no big deal. And they also have to be rigid. I don't like the little flimsy tags, so I try not to go with one layer, but if I do go with one layer, I use watercolor paper, whether it really needs watercolor or not. So those are my two rules for tags. And the great thing about this little project is that you're going to get probably 12 tags out of one sheet. So that will help these go by really quick. You can add any scraps of paper that you have. They don't have to match because they're going to go on all sorts of different gifts. So you don't have to worry about being matchy-matchy. Just grab some things that you like and start throwing these together. We're featuring the Heartfelt Christmas stamp set. This is from scrapbook.com. I love it because it's got these great little greetings and they're small enough for tags, but you can also use them on regular cards or other projects, scrapbooks, etc. It's got this cute little handmade medallion in here, so you can put this on the back of your cards when you make them and all that kind of stuff. So it's just really a cute, versatile set. It's nice and small, so you can use it for all sorts of different things. So I will set up for our background and we'll get rolling. All right, I know that you know by now that when I have the Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station out, that means I'm going to be doing something with water and it needs to be movable. So that's why I have it out today. Not going to be using the magnets because I'm just not going to need it for this project. But this is what we'll be making. These are just really awesome panels of snowflakey goodness, all sorts of gold in here. And this one has a little bit of greenish blue running through it. And this one you can see has more blue in it with green. So how did that happen? Well, I was messing around with my dylusions stencil. Again, you'll remember this from another video I'd already done. So I wanted to do like an ink smushing technique. So I smushed this all up with two distress oxides, Salty Ocean and Tumbled Glass. And I got it all nice and wet and I put it down on the paper and it looked gorgeous, but I wanted to add gold. So then I spritzed the altenew Antique Gold spray on here with the blue still on there, and then also with this panel was still wet. And of course it reacted with the panel, the yellow that's in here, and it turned these spots green. And it's okay. Of course, these tags will work perfectly for a gift. It's not like I'm not going to use them. I'm going to use them. I think they're great. Wasn't what I was looking for though. So what I did then is I just decided to go for more of a gold panel, but I still had a little bit of blue left over on there. And of course we ended up with a little bit of green. And I think the cool thing about that is that it looks kind of coppery. So I'll try to recreate that today with just the leftover ink that I have on my blending sponges, and we'll see how that turns out. So I'm going to start with a piece of paper toweling, and I don't normally do this, but because I'm going to be spraying this altenew spray all over the place, I thought, well, I'll just use paper towel because that gets out of the way real quick. So I'm just going to take these two colors. So this again is Salty Ocean and Tumbled Glass. And I just want to put like a little bit on here and see how that works for us. If we get any kind of, this I think is going to work better, having the darker blue. So the Salty Ocean I think is going to work better. So I'm just putting little dabs of it. It's just whatever I had left over on the sponge. And I'm hoping that that will be enough to react with the altenew spray. So this needs to be shaken up because it has the metallic flake in it, and it has like this kind of goldy color already in there, which is really what's going to react with your with the blue. And now I'm just going to spritz this all over. Okay, so that should be pretty good. And I'm just going to kind of let it sit here. So it's going to start to move a little bit. And then I'm even going to use just a teeny tiny bit of water just to add a little more motion. Now this is a wet to dry technique, so I'm not going to wet my my watercolor paper. And actually what I could do is just like lay this right on top if I wanted to, because everything else is soaked into the paper toweling. So I'm going to lay this right down on top. Get a good smush going on. Let's lift the whole thing over. And you can see I got good contact. So that's what I wanted to make sure, is that I had good contact going on here. And just let me grab a towel so I can finish smushing this all around. And what I like about how this one is going to turn out is that I didn't get any bleed into the snowflakes. So hopefully we get a good enough snowflake pattern that we see what's going on. It's always a surprise, so let's find out. All right, so this one is much lighter than this one, but I still think it's going to have some really good results. So we'll set this one aside to dry, and I will continue working by cutting this one up, and we will work on 3 more tags. All right, so I cut this strip down to 3 pieces. So out of a strip like this, I cut this down to 2.5 inches, so 2.5 by 3.5. And this is a really great size for a gift tag. And then I need to make my corners. So you can either do a decorative corner like this, or you can do just your square corners like this. And if you're going to do just your squares, if you use a piece of graph paper or a grid of some sort, you can make your marks so that way these end up being even. And then I just do one and then I snip the rest of them. I just use this like as a template. So that's an easy way to add a decorative corner. If you want to do something more decorative and you don't have a punch, what you can use, if you have it, is your We Are Memory Keepers envelope punch board. Now, I've used this for all sorts of things other than punches. You can use it for making boxes and all sorts of things. Most recently, I used it for all of my swatches. I cut the little envelope indent on this side, and then I use the back side, the rounded edge, to round the other side of my swatches. So there's a lot of ways that you can use this. And so let me show you how I do that. So I want to get these nice little swoops here, and that comes on this side. So I'm just going to line this up at the 2.5 inches because that's how wide this is. That basically aligns it right down the center of the punch board. You see how it's like right down the center there? So if I do that and then punch it, see I end up with a perfect little swoosh. And then I just need to flip it over, kind of eyeball it and align it again at that 2.5 inches, or again eyeball it in the center here, and then get the other side and see how great that works out. And actually I don't think I had it in quite far enough. So let's try again. There we go. That's a little more even. So those come together really quick. And they're super cute to have that little detail on there instead of just the straight cut. I totally like couldn't punch and talk at the same time. All right, so there you go. Super easy, right? And then for the holes, I just eyeball one of them, and then I just use a regular hole punch. This is just like your regular 1/4 inch punch. And once I have one done, I just align them at the top and use that one as a template for the rest. And there you go. So holes punched, edges done. You could leave them just like this, not even put any kind of greeting on there, and then you just put your to from on the back, and these would make great gift tags just as is. But if you want to add a little bit of glitz and glam, let's go for broke. Okay, so Altenew just recently came out with pigment inks, and I really love them. They're reminiscent of the Sukaneko the Encore pads, which I still have, but I'll be replacing them with these as I can, because these work really well. They give great coverage. Because they're pigment, they work well underneath golds or whatever color they are embossing, which I like to do because it gives me a better coverage to begin with, and then you've got that extra protection of that same color underneath, so that way if you miss some of the embossing, no one can really tell. Okay, so the first one I'm going to do, super simple. It's just this Merry Christmas. And I chose to do both of the regular typeset. I could do like the Merry in the script font and then the Christmas in the typeset, or vice versa, and that would look really kind of cool too. Just got those guys lined up. And then, of course, don't forget to anti-static this, especially because it's got all those crevices in there from the watercolor paper. And I'm just going to ink these up with the pigment ink and pop it over. The one that goes on the watercolor paper. So if you're going to stamp directly on watercolor paper, I recommend stamping twice, because all those crevices, again, you want to make sure you're really getting in there. All right, so even that looks really awesome, and this pigment ink does dry relatively quickly. I would still heat set it though, just to make sure that you get a good dry on it before you smudge it. But just use some gold embossing powder, and this is going to look gorgeous in a hot minute. All right, so you can see this one just comes together super quick, and it looks super awesome with just that embossing on there, and it's just a really great card. Okay, so next one, we'll take these in order from easiest to hardest. So the next one is going to have a little bit of cardstock on it, and this is Forest Glades by Altenew. So I'm going to use the scripty here in this little handmade medallion, and we'll do Merry and Christmas and kind of get them to fit together. So like the little Y swoops down, but the Christmas has the big C on it. So you see how they kind of interlock together. And then I'm going to put this little handmade medallion up here. And it looks like this cardstock needs to come to about like the 2.5 inch mark. So I'm going to grab these guys and then put this down at the 2.5 inch mark, just to make sure that's going to be a good place for it. And it is. So this is kind of how backwards I'm doing this. Instead of eyeballing it the other way around, I'm just putting some glue here. And then bring my cardstock in and get it in line. And then I can take this and snip it off. All right, so I've got my piece in place here now. I'm not worried about that glue. It will come off with my adhesive remover later. Oop, and there it is. And then we just lather, rinse, repeat with our embossing and our stamping. All right, so you can see super simple, and it looks really great. This green looks really awesome with the green that the blue turned into with that gold. So it's just really kind of a nice toned down and classy looking tag. Okay, so the last one is a little, not like super involved, but just a little bit because it has an angle to it. And I developed the angle from my first one, this one, because I really wanted to use the Happy Holidays, but it doesn't really fit across that way. So I thought, oh, well, if I put it at an angle, I have more room. And then I set the angle on my first one, and then I've just been using the same measurement for all the rest of them. So that makes it easier for me to replicate the angle. So I've got that going right there. So all I really need to do is pick a height on this and get it adhered. All right, and again, just trimming off the bottom. Look, I have an extra little piece here. I could probably use that for another tag that has that green across the bottom. All right, and I'm always losing my little, there it is. Anti-static, very important. All right, so then we're just going at an angle here, and then I had this empty space, so I thought that I would add in that little handmade medallion again. Of course, if you didn't want to put the handmade thing on there, like if it was going on an actual, it was going on a gift that's not handmade, you could add any number of things in there, a different stamp. You could add in a little embellishment. You could just leave it plain, whatever you want to do. All right. So again, we're just going to go ahead and emboss this guy, and that will be another set of tags done. All right, so there are all of our finished tags, and these are super simple to put together. They've got a nice weight to them, and they're going to look great on any gift packaging. I always leave off any kind of ribbon or twine because I don't know what I'm going to add it to, so I just usually add that as I'm using it for gifts. I hope you enjoyed today's project and that you've been leaving comments throughout this entire 12-day series. As you may know, I am giving away both product and projects. So the more you enter, the more entries you will have. There's also a form that you need to fill out just so that I have your mailing address if you end up being a winner. And that will give you an extra entry too. So make sure that you're following along across the 12 days and you could win some of this really great stuff. I hope to see you again for my next 12 days video, but until next time, happy crafting.